In the previous video, you used Visual Studio's ASP.NET MVC website template to create a new ASP.NET MVC project. In this video, we'll explore what Visual Studio generated and find out what makes an ASP.NET MVC application tick. As you might guess from the name of the framework, you'll find the most important parts of the application in the Models, Views, and Controllers folders. First, let's look at the Models folder. It starts out mostly empty, with just the models that support the registration and login process that the Internet template provides out of the box. As you build your application, you'll add classes to this folder that represent the business logic of your application. For example, since the demo application we'll be building throughout this course is an online auction site, we'll be adding an auction model to this folder in the next few videos. Next, we have the Controllers folder. In the first video, I mentioned that controllers in the MVC architectural pattern are responsible for accepting requests to your application and figuring out what to do next, be it modifying data in a database and/or choosing which view to display. In the ASP.NET MVC framework, controllers are actually just regular .NET classes that implement the system.web.iController interface, or more often the system.web.mvc.controller base class that implements that interface, and whose names end with the controller suffix. These controller classes are important, but the things that actually handle requests are the methods in these classes called controller actions. Just as controllers are regular .NET classes, controller actions are simple methods that contain the logic to process the request and that return an object that tells the ASP.NET MVC framework what to do next, be it which view to display to the user, or some other value such as an object to be serialized and returned as JSON. To help you get started, the ASP.NET MVC Internet project template generates two controller classes for you, the Account Controller and the Home Controller. As I mentioned earlier when we saw its model classes in the Models folder, the Account Controller contains all of the logic you need for users to create an account on your site and log in. The other controller in this folder, the Home Controller, is important too, as it contains a special action named Index which provides the default behavior for the homepage of your application. This default behavior is determined by a convention that the ASP.NET MVC framework uses to determine which controller action should handle a given request. The ASP.NET MVC framework then creates an instance of the Home Controller class and calls its index method. Finally, there's the Views controller, where all of the views for your site will live. Within this folder are subfolders with names that correspond to controllers. Inside of these subfolders are the views that those controllers will display. You may also notice the Shared folder, which contains views that can be used throughout the site. Now that we're acquainted with the ASP.NET MVC folder structure, let's move on to the next video and begin developing our application.